I guarantee you this. If you watch this video until the very end, you will struggle to see a world where Chelsea have any chance of winning any silverware whatsoever. So the question becomes why? Why are Chelsea not within a shout of winning any silverware next year? Why are Chelsea a million miles away from finishing within the top 8 of the Premier League? Do you know why? Do you know why we won't win anything? Do you know why we won't compete? The answer is very simple. Because it doesn't matter. It's not the point. For Chelsea Football Club, we are a unique and alarming example. We're a football club where the results aren't the be-all and end-all. We're a football club where success, the word success, is now a fluid term. It's a term with multiple meanings. There is a world where under this Clearlake vision, Chelsea could be a success whilst finishing 11th in the league and winning nothing. It's as if Clearlake and their disgraceful approach to the game have redefined the word itself. Success. It no longer means what it's supposed to mean. We can be a successful business without being a successful football team, and that is what the ambition is. The football team is secondary. The football team is incidental to this overall vision. We as football fans, we believe that every single team is doing its best to win every single game, and therefore, if you're lucky and things go your way, silverware may well follow. But at Chelsea, that is clearly not the case. We are not trying to build the best football team. We are categorically not. Obviously not. Proven not to be trying to build a team capable of winning games of football. It's not the ambition. It's not the motivation. It's not what we are trying to do. Look at the way we are conducting ourselves. Look at the way we are handling our business in the transfer window. Look at the appointments that we are making across the club. Do any of them chime with the sentiment that success is the main ambition? We are clearly not trying to assemble the best squad of players that we can. We are clearly not appointing the best manager that we can possibly find. We are clearly being destroyed from the inside out. The identity and principle of Chelsea Football Club is being eroded by this current board and ownership. It is clear as day that our entire vision is based around profit, and the football team is secondary. And that is why we have appointed a mediocre, unproven, and ultimately a yes man of a manager. Now, for the record, that sounds incredibly harsh. I have nothing against Enzo Maresca. I hope it works for him. And when the season starts, I will be wholeheartedly, unilaterally, aggressively backing Enzo Maresca. But we have to be honest here. Enzo Maresca was never the right choice for Chelsea. Enzo Maresca never deserved the opportunity to sit in the home dugout at Stamford Bridge. 3 years ago, we were the champions of Europe. Why on earth are we appointing a manager from the Championship with no Premier League experience? We're meant to be a rival to Man City. We're meant to be competing with Man City. Man City are supposed to be scared of us. Pep Guardiola should be looking at Chelsea thinking, oh, they could be a problem. Instead of that, what have we done? We have appointed a B-Tech version of Pep Guardiola. Chelsea Football Club have appointed a manager purely because there is an association, a pre-existing relationship between Enzo Maresca and Pep Guardiola. That is what we are doing now. Gone are the days where we appoint the best, where we demand the best, from the top down the best, from the bottom up the best. Whether it's Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti or Antonio Conte, the best were appointed. Even the ones that didn't work out. The motivation was still clear as day. Okay, Scolari came in, it didn't work, but he was still the Brazil manager who guided them to the World Cup. Andre Villas-Boas was a complete and utter disaster, a wally of a man. But you can still understand the motivations to appointing him. Him and that weird little crouchy thing he used to do, remember that? That was weird, wasn't it? Again, I want to reiterate, I mean it with no disrespect. But Enzo Maresca has been appointed because he will not stand in the way of the ultimate vision. He will not block the long-term project because he knows that he has been over-promoted. He can't believe his luck that he's got the Chelsea job. He's never going to rock the boat. He's been appointed as nothing more than somebody to front the football club. He's going to keep the team afloat, hopefully do a stable job, all whilst crucially, and most importantly, not getting in the way of this hateful nonsense project. Enzo Maresca will not interfere with the bigger picture, and that is why Enzo Maresca got the job. He did not get the job because of his managerial brilliance. He did not get the job because of his stellar track record of everything that he's done in management so far. But crucially, we have to go back to this. He will not get in the way of the bigger picture. Now, that doesn't quite make sense, does it? How can there be a bigger picture? That's a football club. The football team is surely the bigger picture. The whole picture revolves around the football team, doesn't it? There is nothing more important at a football club than the football team. Whereas at Chelsea, it's very weird. The team is not the most important asset of the club. Should we use Arsenal here as a case study to try and prove the point that I'm making? So at Arsenal Football Club, everything that they do, everything that they want to be, every ambition that they have starts with the football team. Arteta and Arteta's men, They are the genesis of everything that Arsenal, the business, are trying to do. It all funnels in to the football team. The team are the anchor, and everything else is an offshoot of that. They sign players who are proven. They sign players who they clearly need. They need a midfielder, for example. The reason that they didn't win the league is because they didn't have enough in midfield. They needed that swashbuckling midfielder. They needed that statement signing. There was a glaring omission in the team. So what do? They go and they sign a player that ultimately fixes that issue. They go and they sign Declan Rice. They use the money from the business of the club to funnel it down into the team. The team are the priority. The other thing that they do, which is also very crucial, they don't just sell their best players. Bukayo Saka plays for Arsenal. He doesn't play for Real Madrid. Again, it gives you a huge insight into the motivation. If you wanted to make money, Bukayo Saka would have signed for Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Barcelona by now. But you don't want to win money, you want to win football matches. So where does he play? He plays on Arsenal's right wing. As well he should. Whereas Chelsea Football Club, sadly, we have some weird and obscure ambition these days. Visualised by some American venture capitalists, this weird symmetry occurs where you can be a football club and yet have no real interest in the football team and yet still profit. You can own a football club, but the success and failure of the football club almost has nothing to do with the football team. And that's why Enzo Maresca has got the job. But more revealingly, that's why Mauricio Pochettino left the job. Look, let's go back to what happened at the end of last season. As Chelsea went 6 games undefeated towards the end of the season, it looked as though Mauricio Pochettino had finally found a winning formula for his team. At its foundation was Petrovic in goal, Marc Cucurella at left back, Thiago Silva and Trevor Chalobah as centre halves with Malo Gusto as the right back. In the middle, we had Conor Gallagher and Moises Caicedo. This team worked. Whilst it wasn't necessarily a foundation of players from the project, they were the best available players to the manager and they found a formation that suited them. We spent the previous half a season trying to fit square pegs into round holes, but for the final 6 games, it clicked. For the final 6 games, Mauricio Pochettino got it right. And let's be fair, we put in some very good performances under him. We looked genuinely good against Tottenham, West Ham and Everton. And in fact, I would go so far as saying some of the football that was played under Pochettino towards the end of the season was as good as anything that's been played at Stamford Bridge since Eden Hazard was in the team. But by the start of June, Pochettino and Thiago Silva had already gone. And by the end of August, it feels like Chalobah, Petrovic and Conor Gallagher will have followed them. Now, Chalobah, Petrovic and Gallagher are very interesting because not only did they excel last season, not only were we heavily reliant on them last season, not only were they 3 of Chelsea's best performers last season, but they all expressed a desire to stay. They all wanted to be part of the new Chelsea moving forward. None of them expressed any interest of wanting to leave. So they are all leaving against their will. Thiago Silva moving on, it's not the biggest surprise. He's a legend at Chelsea, he's a legend in football, but he's 40 years old and he'd been offered a chance to return to his boyhood club, Fluminense. In those circumstances, we have to wish him well. Truly gutted he left, but we will love Thiago Silva forever. Pochettino is slightly different. Many Chelsea fans never wanted him appointed. I never really liked him, I never wanted him in the job, but you have to hold your hands up and you have to concede that ultimately he got an awful lot right. We had a very successful run-in. It resulted in European qualification. And surely off the back of that, he deserved to stay. If nothing else, he only had 1 season left on his contract. Surely, in a summer that was so turbulent, in a summer that was so difficult to find a manager because so many big clubs were looking to replace their manager, surely keeping hold of Mauricio Pochettino made sense. But he is now gone. So the manager that found a way of playing that worked has been sacrificed. The players that were central to that system have also been sacrificed. All for what? All for this project, which suggests that the project is far more important than winning games of football. Is Enzo Maresca a better manager than Mauricio Pochettino? Whatever I think about Pochettino as a person, whatever tribal bias I have against him because I'm a juvenile when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur, nobody could even dream of arguing that Enzo Maresca is a better manager than Mauricio Pochettino. So have we improved? Have we elevated our opportunity? Of course not. We've got rid of a man who clearly stood up to the owners and had a bit of principle and said, you cannot sell Trevor Chalobah. He is central to my plans. You cannot sell Conor Gallagher. He played more minutes for me than anyone else last season. He was captain of Chelsea 90% of the time. Pochettino had the guts to stand up to the ownership. Maresca has come in because he will toe the party line. Mauricio Pochettino has been replaced for a yes man for the owners, a yes man for the sporting directors, and a yes man for the project. And Maresca has come in and immediately allowed the players that did a good job for us last year, the players that contributed to our limited, decent patches of form last year, to be banished to the reserves or forced out of the club completely. Why? Why? The answer is simple. It's because maximising pure profit is more important than winning games of football. And I tell you what, watching Chelsea this pre-season has been horrific. We could not be further away from Mauricio Pochettino's winning formula if we tried. Chastening defeat following chastening defeat. Petrovic didn't even travel to America, by the way. We've been conceding goals galore over in America, but the best goalkeeper at the club couldn't travel because apparently some fears linger that he's not good enough with his feet. So instead of that, stateside, we've been watching Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen. They've conceded 12 goals between them. Like, call me old-fashioned, but I wonder whether we should worry more about whether a goalkeeper can catch or not. Like, let's first and foremost worry about what they can do with their hands rather than their feet. Like, let's worry whether you can save a shot or catch a cross rather than worry about whether you can be Ruud Gullit on the ball. Trevor Chalobah, so composed, so assured at the back last season, has been banished to the reserves. All the while, Axel Disasi, Levi Colwill and Tosin Adarabioyo seem to be in competition with one another to show who can be the most inept defender. There is no doubt in my mind that the best defender at the club is Trevor Chalobah, and the way that he has been treated is a disgrace. We've also had Mark Cucurella out, so as a result, Malo Gusto, who at least remains at the club, has been switched from the right to the left. And I'll tell you what, out of position, he looks like a shadow of the player that he did last year. Under Pochettino, he was fantastic, Gusto, marauding up the right, absolutely brilliant, threatening, composed and assured. A very good player who had an excellent season. But on the left, he's basically not capable of playing there. So we have a problem. Gusto can't play there, and Ben Chilwell is back, available for selection, but due to his inability to invert, isn't available for selection. Like, it really is hard for me to overstate quite how badly we have been defending in America. Like, it's comical. It's really bad. It's embarrassing. It's worrying. It's troubling. It is horrific. But Enzo Maresca seems all right with it. He's committed to the style. He's committed to the players. He's committed to the formation. He is committed to our back line. So rather than playing the cards that you're dealt, we are going to impose this system on players. This possession-based game. Possession for the sake of possession. We're going to ask Axel Disasi to play out from the back. We're going to ask Axel Disasi to be our version of Ruud Gullit. Our midfielders look woeful at times as well, cutting through us so easily. Regardless of who we play, they just cut through our midfield. Do you know what we could really do with? If there was one player who would really help us elevate the options there, one player who'd help make us a bit more tight, a bit more composed, a bit better when out of possession, we could really do with signing Conor Gallagher from Atletico. An excellent player. I think he'd be good at Chelsea, and I think Chelsea fans would really have a rapport with him. It's atrocious what's happened there, isn't it? It really is atrocious. And the treatment of Gallagher rivals the treatment of Chalobah. A boyhood Chelsea fan who captained the club last season has been forced to move on following insulting briefings from the club that he isn't good enough to play Enzo Maresca's system. He wouldn't be welcome in the first team changing room at Cobham when he returns from his extended summer break off the back of helping England reach a final at the Euros. Now, it doesn't make any sense to me, but Conor Gallagher seems divisive amongst Chelsea fans. I do my best to stay offline. I really don't understand it. Like, even if you don't rate him as a player, which I find bewildering, but even if you don't, how can you possibly be okay with this level of treatment towards him? I'll always wish Gallagher well, and I tell you what, on some level, if he wasn't a Chelsea fan, he would be laughing his socks off. He's gone from a team in the Conference League to a team in the Champions League. He's gone from a championship manager in Enzo Maresca to one of the best in the game, Diego Simeone. I think that tells you everything, doesn't it? Chelsea fans say he's not good enough for us. We're in the Conference League. He's been bought by a club who are competing in the Champions League and who are very ambitious. And yes, it's sad. And it's another example of Chelsea losing our identity. But fair play to Gallagher. I love the fact that he's gone abroad as well. Doesn't want to sign for a rival. It's a mark of the man, and good luck to him. So, we're left with Enzo Fernandez. Fantastic. Caicedo and Gallagher's form towards the end of last year was excellent. That was our best midfield partnership. And anyone who watched Chelsea play regularly last season will know that Caicedo and Fernandez simply doesn't work. And yet, somehow, Conor Gallagher is the one deemed surplus to requirements. Off the back of Enzo Fernandez's season, off the back of him proving that he can't play with Caicedo, off the back of Gallagher proving that he can play with Caicedo, off the back of everything that Enzo Fernandez is, we still decide to stay with Enzo Fernandez and sell Conor Gallagher. How do you make that make sense? Rationalise that. It's clear as day. Enzo Fernandez is a £100 million asset. Conor Gallagher is simply bread and honey to the owners. This is the problem. And this proves that it's not about the football team. This, Gallagher leaving, Fernandez staying, Fernandez's disgraceful conduct being swept under the carpet, Fernandez stays. Fernandes gets the seal of approval from the board. Fernandes is a project player and a darling of these idiot sporting directors. If you sell Fernandes, you almost certainly do it for a loss. If you sell Gallagher, it will be for pure profit. Who cares about the impact on the pitch? It's that OJ song. Money, 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 money. It's a banger, to be fair, but still. So Enzo Maresca will conform to the will of the board. Enzo Maresca will listen to the sporting directors. He will allow Gallagher to leave, and he will build a team around Enzo Fernandes. Look, I know that pre-season isn't all about results. I know that pre-season isn't always an indicator of how a season will turn out. I know that it's as much about fitness as it is about results. And of course, there has been the odd glimmer of hope that I'm clinging on to. The occasional silver lining on an otherwise dark and ominous cloud. And Kunku looks sharp. Raheem Sterling looks like a man possessed. He looks so hungry, he looks so up for it. Looks like he's determined to prove people wrong after a fairly hit and miss first 2 seasons at Chelsea. The kid we signed from Barcelona, Marc Gu, he scored a couple of goals and looks lively. However, for Chelsea, this feels so much bigger than a pre-season. This feels like a summer of sweeping change. Managerially, tactically, ideologically, and in personnel. Mostly for the worse, and all due to the vanity of those at the centre of the project. For us though, lifelong fans of the club, it feels to me like we are in for a very long season. And if things carry on in the same vein as they have done this summer, it won't be long before serious questions are asked. Not only of Enzo Maresca, but of the sporting directors and everyone involved at Clearlake. There we have it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please do me a favour, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Really am interested to hear what you have to say. Cheers.